Early in the morning of November 14, a powerful explosion occurred in German-occupied Kharkov. Soviet bombers managed to carry out a top-secret operation to destroy one of the Wehrmacht commanders. After the outbreak of war, a special battalion was created in Moscow, which was responsible for mining and blowing up important buildings and infrastructure. The leader was appointed scout saboteur Ilya Starinov, who until 1939 was in Spain and managed to organize many explosions during the Civil War. The battalion was sent to Kharkov. The city could be taken by the Germans at any moment. It was necessary to mine the railroad, airfields, and important buildings. Among them was the ancient house of Koziora, where the leaders of the Ukrainian SSR lived until 1934. Starinov understood that it was necessary to mine the buildings discreetly. After the bombing of houses in Kiev in the summer of 1941, the Germans became very careful. The colonel decided that it was necessary to plant several bombs in important buildings at once. The work of laying the bait was deliberately carried out almost in the open, so that possible spies and traitors easily discovered them and did not look further. At first, at a depth of several meters, and in the basements placed ordinary explosives, which even the most inexperienced sapper could disarm. But radio-controlled bombs were hidden underneath. They could be detonated remotely later. Soviet troops left Kharkov, and it was occupied by the Germans. On November 10, Starinov was reported that the enemy managed to clear almost all the buildings in the city. The trap near Koziora's house was also discovered, but the deeply hidden bomb was still under the structure. Colonel decided to show punish for allegedly poorly conducted operation. Starinov kept silent when he was accused of poor performance. He just waited and said that everything was still ahead of him. The long-awaited moment came on November 13. Starinov was ordered to detonate all his laid shells. While in Voronezh, on November 14 at 3 a.m., he launched a special radio transmission on all possible waves to guarantee the destruction of buildings and the Germans in them. After that, the colonel began to wait. When the sun rose, a reconnaissance plane was sent to Kharkov. The pilot took many pictures. They clearly showed most of the bombs worked, but the most important, Koziora's house, did not get into the lens. Starinov continued to mine other objects, but all the time thought whether he managed to blow up the very house, where according to intelligence reports were to move in high-ranking German officers. In the fall of 1943, immediately after the liberation of the city from the occupants, Starinov rushed to Dzerzhinsky Street, 17. At this address was the same house Koziora. Arriving at the place, the colonel was unspeakably glad. Instead of the building was one big hole with water. He turned to the locals, and they remembered what had happened in the early morning of November 14. Two women told him that they woke up early in the morning to a heavy rumbling noise. There was a lot of cinders in the air, and on their roof was a grand piano that had been thrown by a blast wave from the bombed house across the street. The Germans searched for survivors for a long time, but found no one. Starinov continued to work. A day later, he received a phone call and was told to come immediately to headquarters. There was a surprise waiting for him. Arriving at the place, the colonel saw a Captain Sapper Wehrmacht, who was in the city that day and later captured. Karl Hayden told him that they had found all the false bombs. They were disarmed. For this, he was even rewarded, and Georg von Braun moved into the Koziora house. This was a famous German executioner who led one of the infantry divisions of the Wehrmacht. He executed many soldiers and people in Vinnytsia and moved to Kharkov to establish his order here. The prisoner said that Braun liked to live in comfort. In November, it was very cold outside, and the Major General wanted all the comforts to be inside. He moved into the former house of the USAR leadership, not suspecting that there was a bomb planted there. But things did not go quite according to plan. There were many traitors in Kharkov who pointed out to the Germans where exactly the buildings were mined. Wehrmacht sappers managed to defuse some bombs, but fortunately no one knew about the explosives in Koziora's house. In addition to him on November 14, 2 other German officers and about 20 soldiers were killed. The Germans believed that the partisans were to blame for everything and executed 200 people. Ilya Stirinov managed to conduct many amazing operations during the war. Thanks to him, he managed to get hold of the atomic notebook, which in the future helped to create nuclear weapons.